Good morning. Most of y'all know me, but for those that don't, my name is Kayla, and I'm married to Brian, and we have two children, Chase and McKenna, who are 1 and 4, so we are definitely busy. But my journey started out in a small town in the mountains called Silva. I grew up in a loving Christian home and often had the same drug problem that the preacher describes as being drugged to church every Sunday. Our church was no bigger than the fellowship hall here, and if all the members showed up, it might have been 60, and most of those were my family. Brian likes to joke and say that we were snake handlers, but I assure you in my short time there that we were not. Although I attended church regularly, it was difficult for me given that the preachers must have been graded on how loud they could shout and how much they could stomp their feet. While this was effective in keeping the audience awake, the messages were hard to understand. Luckily, we had Sunday school and Bible school to help out with that. We did not have a youth program or child care programs like we have here, and the only youth there were my cousins. It was during a revival that I got saved when I was 12 years old. I felt something calling me to the altar and knew that God was speaking to me to come. I will never forget that time in my life, partly because I was baptized outside in a river in the mountains in the month of March. No fancy baptismals like here. Being a teenager in the mountains without a youth group and without a lot of things to do was tough, and I backslid and did a lot of things that I'm not proud of. I saw my sister going down a bad path, and I was determined that I did not want to repeat that. In the end, I always came back to God. Moving to Greensboro was definitely a culture shock. By that time, I was ready to settle down and focus on my education. Through college, I went to different churches with different friends and saw some different ways that churches were handled. Most of those were good experience. Shortly after, I met my husband and moved to the good old Davie County, which reminded me a lot of my hometown. There were a lot of guys before him, but on our first date, I knew there was something different about him. Right before I got married, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer with a tumor the size of an orange that was inoperable. He was told by one doctor that maybe it wasn't even worth going through chemo, but he was always a good attitude and wanted to fight for it. I was thankful he was able to at least walk me down the aisle. He went through treatments for almost a year, and the best news we got was that the tumor had not grown. I went to the last doctor's appointment with him and remember the doctor telling them that there was nothing more that they could do. While I broke down crying, there was a peace about him. Of course, he wanted more time on earth, but he was okay knowing that he was going to a better place. I often think of the verse 2 Timothy 4:7 when I think of him. It says, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. He died on his 50th birthday, surrounded by family. His death was particularly difficult, given that his parents had passed away within a year and a half of him. At the time, I was a newlywed and in full-time grad school, so I had a lot on my plate. One of the last things he said to my mom was make sure she finishes school. Even at the end, he was always worried and proud of us. Without God, I don't think I could have made it through that difficult time. But we moved to Advance after settled down with the married life. Before moving, we had been going to Brian's mom's church or his brother's church, never really found our place. We decided to look around for churches closer to our home. Luckily, we didn't have to look far because Fork was the first one on our list. We were welcomed here with open arms, and everyone was just so nice. We saw the youth programs and the child care programs and knew that this would be a good fit for our future family. My heart is so full, and I truly feel like my cup runneth over with blessings, a loving husband, supportive family, 2 amazing kids that have far exceeded my expectations of motherhood, an awesome church family, and a job that I mostly love. I am thankful to know that I will be able to bring my kids up in a church that has such good, awesome youth programs and children's programs. I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I do know that no matter what, that there are better things to come, and that one day I will rejoice knowing that I get to see my dad again. Thank you.